Happy morning! I want to be in bed. But we don't have time for bed! Because today, we're going to be taking a much closer look at the new, super maneuverable, but really wimpy, giant pterodactyl. Now, the first thing you gotta know about the TAPEJARA is this thing is maneuverable as hell. You can move it up, you can move it down, you can move it left, you can move it right, and you can even move it back. The TAPEJARA is the first flyer to feature a multi-seat saddle, allowing up to 3 people, 1 rider and 2 gunners. This thing is kinda hard to tame. You know, it's a lot like the Quetzal actually, except unlike the Quetzal, it just starts running the second you get close to it. It's a smaller, more maneuverable target, so this thing's gonna be hard to trank. Your best bet is to have somebody carry you on their fastest flyer, and to just try your best. Once you get it down though, it's a lot easier to tame. The TAPEJARA is not too much of a picky eater. It'll eat raw meat, prime meat, or Allosaurus kibble if you got it. You should know that while the TAPEJARA may seem like this crazy, god tier, super overpowered, ridiculous flyer, and why would you ever add this to the game, devs? It does have some pretty severe drawbacks. First of all, this isn't a fighting creature. You're not gonna be getting in close, biting things to death. Don't even bother pumping points in a melee, because it's just weak. And you're better off just letting the gunners do the work while you keep your distance. Second, people have been worried thinking that because the TAPEJARA can latch onto surfaces that it would never have to land and that this would be completely overpowered and this thing could stay in the air forever indefinitely. Well, that's sort of true, but there's a serious drawback here. While you're latched onto a surface, your stamina takes forever to recover. It's so slow. In fact, you're better off just landing to regain your stamina. Also, I've noticed that trying to latch onto surfaces is kind of spotty. Sometimes you'll attempt to latch onto a wall or something. What'll happen is the thing will just like get confused or something and say, oh, wait a minute, you don't want to latch onto this wall, but you want to land. I got it. So if you're in kind of a super critical situation where you're gonna get yourself in trouble by latching onto a wall, think twice, because if your TAPEJARA gets confused and decides that it needs to land on the ground and not latch to a tree or something, you're gonna die. And finally, while it may seem like, okay, cool, it sort of isn't good at getting up close, well, I mean, I get that. It's super maneuverable and I have 2 gunners, so I don't need to use this as a fighting creature. That also has a drawback. First of all, the gunners have a really hard time aiming. It's just really hard to aim when this thing's moving around. You're gonna kind of need to be stable so that your gunners can aim, and when you're stable, you're open to fire, so that's an issue. The other thing is if you have people on your TAPEJARA with rocket launchers, you need to be extremely careful, because what's gonna happen is if they miss, if they clip the wing or something, everybody dies. One final sort of extra drawback that I'll talk about here is that the health of the TAPEJARA also sucks. It's, when you tame it, it's sort of on par with the RG. However, pumping points into the TAPEJARA, it actually receives less points per level than the RG. So that's another thing you have to consider. This thing is wimpy as a melee fighter, and this thing is also pretty wimpy as far as health stats go. So you're gonna wanna keep your distance, let the gunners fight, and be careful and be cautious using the right-click pickup. Remember, this thing's weak. Pick up the wrong guy or get too close, you're in trouble. Well, that's all I got for you today. Hey, if you're new here, why don't you look around the channel a little bit? I have no doubt in my mind that if you look at some of the other videos on this channel, you too will become a loyal citizen of the shaft. Oh, and by the way, we have our own server. Look in the description, click it, and join our server, and also check out our Discord. Cool. I've had enough of this, I'm going to bed.